Hello, this is my follow-up to the Stalker 2 frame review that I did. I've moved the project along a little further, and I'm going to give you a walk around. I didn't start this project with any particular timeline in mind. It's just kind of a hobby for me, something I do that's a little bit different from my normal job. So let's take a little walk around. You can take a look at some of the things that I put in. Discern those for yourself. And when we finish the walk around, I will actually delve into some of the details. Okay, let me state that one of my goals with this build was to make something that was reliable, and I found that the factory equipment tends to last quite a long time. So, no need to put in a bunch of fancy things like disc brakes. The drum brakes are fine for a vehicle that weighs as little as this one does. I did have the original drums turned, so they're nice and round. Let's start at the front here. Got my turn signals incorporated into the winch halyard, and I am using the sway bar. I've gone with the original hydraulic shocks. That was at the advice of a fellow that sold me the frame. He also builds these, and he said you want the softest shock you can get. So that would be the hydraulic shock. Let's take a look here. I'm using the original steering gearbox. I rebuilt that, and there's the 4,000 pound winch, and this is where the battery is going to sit. And here we have a brake reservoir, this little white canister here hanging off of a piece that I've actually rivet nutted onto the frame. The gas tank, it is an aluminum 5-gallon job. I was able to pick that up secondhand. The brake pedal actually pushes on a rod that's attached to the original connection piece, and then it travels underneath the fuel tank. I didn't have room to put the master cylinder under the fuel tank, so I moved it out here and then just extended the rod out. And I've gone with a dual piston brake cylinder. Advantage of that is if I lose one piston, I still got brakes in either the front or the back. Okay, let's move up here. This is one of the parts that took me quite a while to actually put together, and that is this tilt steering mechanism. And it's a pretty simple mechanism. This was my second iteration of it, and it just uses a small gas strut to actually push the thing up. Let me put that through its motions here, and you can kind of see how that works. So that would be the fully down position, and once it's all welded up, it'll be a lot stiffer. And it makes ingress and egress from the vehicle quite a bit simpler. It just uses a single U-joint. The pedal assembly is going to go here. Here you can see the rod that I was talking about for the brakes. It actually extends out, and that will be the part that actually pushes on the brake cylinder. This is going to be this is actually going to activate the brake lights. I don't care for the pressure switch that comes on the original master cylinders. You actually have to apply pressure to the brakes before that comes on. And there may be somebody behind me on the trail or something that I just want to tap the brakes and turn the brake, let them know that I'm going to be braking. So I went with a limit switch there that's actually going to activate the brakes. And over here, this is going to be a footrest for the passenger. Give them something to actually push against when we're on the trail. And then we come around to the, let's move up here and look at the dash. Very simple dash. I am going to have a Speedo. The Speedo will actually go here. Made a wire basket frame and a cover that actually puts it on this side and will mount right to this bar. For the windshield, I'm going to go with a flat glass, and I'll be putting in a bar across this part here before this bend here, and that will form the frame for the glass. It'll just have a rubber seal that goes around and gets. I'll probably use black silicone to actually attach it to this tubing. And I put in a rear view mirror. That's always nice to have, just to be able to see what's behind you. And I formed a cage on the top here. Little something to save us from the sun. I don't expect it'll do much in the event of a rollover, but I don't expect to be rolling over very often. So I've gone with a shifter. It's an aftermarket shifter, and they seem to work all right in this application. Now, this is something everybody seems really interested in, is the mechanical brakes. I did not go with a hydraulic steering brake mechanism. I actually made this up using the original cutout from the well of the donor bug, and it will have the emergency brake in the middle, so I can activate both brakes simultaneously, or using these red handles with the black grips, I can actually apply brakes to either side. And that is accomplished through this device here, which actually uses a couple of heavy-duty pulleys from a those are usually used for garage door lifting mechanisms. And this will actually line up and put the brake pedal, or the brake cable, line it up with the pulley, and that'll get turned, and that will actually attach to the handle, the steering handle on either side. And here's the shifting mechanism here, and then I have holes that go through here for all of the different items that have to go back to the rear of the vehicle. These are solid seats. I filled them with foam to give them a little more stiffness, and they're on sliding mechanisms, so we'll be able to adjust the seats back and forth. And this is actually a trailer tongue box, and it seemed to be a good fit here. I've fitted a couple of speakers in here, weatherproof speakers, and then I have a marine radio in the dash. And this portion here, this will actually be a device that gets welded up and placed on here, and that will actually have a reverse LED light and a third brake light. And then on the opposite side over here is going to be the dome light. And here we have the spare tire carrier. It's a pretty simple affair. It's made for this specific tire. I don't expect to run very much larger tires if I ever decide to take this thing off-road. This is really going to be more for just tooling around town, going out on a Friday or Saturday night and hitting Dairy Queen. I am going to have it set up for the trail, just in case we ever do decide to go on a trail ride. And this antenna will fit here for the CB antenna. It's always a good idea to have a CB on hand if you're going to be going off trail. And that CB is actually going to fit up in this area. There's a plate mount right here, and that will hold the mount for the CB radio, and it will fit in between these handrails, and I'll hang the mic probably up in here somewhere. Let's see. Standard B16 engine, I believe. It's the 1600 single port Just keeping things simple there. All the pretty much original. It's going to have a generator. It's going to have a single carburetor. Now, one of the features on the original Bug was this pipe here. This heats the plenum up underneath the carburetor to keep fuel from pooling in there. And this engine actually came out of a auto stick, so I have a dual oil pump. And rather than switch out to a single, I decided to use the extra pump to actually pump oil out of the block and circulate it up through the manifold to heat it up. And that will go out, and we'll go over to this location where I'll have a spin-on oil filter mounted to this bracket that'll get welded to the frame. That will come through and go to a thermo switch mounted up in here somewhere, and then it will feed into the fan. This is an oil cooler fan in the back here, along with a lighted license plate holder. And if the temperature, I think it's 185 degree thermo switch. If oil gets above 185 degrees, this has a cooling fan on the other side that will actually blow air through it and cool it down. And the oil that comes out of here will go back in down to this location and actually feed into the back into the block here. So oil comes out in this location and gets pumped through the pump, goes through the manifold, through the spin-on filter, through the thermo switch, through the cooler, and then back into the block. So that'll be a circuit for the oil. And that is separate from the oil pump that actually pumps oil to the engine. That's another pump altogether. They're actually dual pump there. And the mufflers I put on are actually have removable baffles here, so I welded on a tab here so I can actually yank that thing out. They're not so easy to get out otherwise. And that pretty much sums it up. Put on stainless steel brake lines for the flexible lines, and we're going to have a USB charger port inside the glove box here. And that goes like so. And there's another look at the dash. And there'll be tabs that get welded on along these sides from the front up in this direction, coming back this way. This will get some HDPE, probably 1/4 inch HDPE, maybe 3/8, just heavy plastic panels. And that's just to keep mud coming off the tires or water or any splashes coming up and flooding the car compartment here with the passenger compartment. And that pretty much concludes it. It's a lot of factory pieces just repurposed, and I think that that pretty much wraps it up. Thanks for your time.